Fundamental Chain, and welcome to the FCM 50T review. Is it worth the gold? So Tier 8 Premium obviously costs 11,900 gold, and is it worth it? Fuck yeah, it is. One of the best Tier 8 Premiums in my opinion. It's definitely one of the hardest Tier 8 Premiums to do well in. It's not an IS-6 where you just drive forwards and shoot things and end up with 3k damage and a reasonable amount of profit. This tank positioning matters and so on, but we'll talk about that in the game. Now we just look at the armor. First of all, this is no heavy tank. This is a medium tank. There's only thing that's heavy on this one is the fucking name and the label. I mean, it weighs 50 tons, but the frontal armor is 120 on the, and it's almost completely flat. So do not expect to bounce anything from this. Turret gun mantle the shit also 120, and there's nothing behind it. There's some small zones with 300 armor, but don't expect much. Side armor 80 on the sides and 80 on the turret. Turret is, as you can see, sloped really badly, so you can basically get 120 armor, and it can bounce occasional shots, but don't count on it. The side armor itself can tank a lot of shells as long as your enemies shoot you in the tracks. These tracks are really thick, as you can see, a lot of armor in the tracks. Even almost completely flat angles are still 160. So if your enemies shoot you in the tracks like a KB IS now or whatever, 175 pen, can easily be stopped by these tracks, but you have to hope that your enemies shoot you in there, because other than the tracks or these little parts here on the gun mantle, there's no other armor on this tank. Annoying cupola that's sticking out quite a lot as well, and that is about everything there is to say about the armor. Don't count on it much. Talking about the soft stats, comparing it to Type 59 as probably the best Tier 8 medium premium. Tank gets a preferential matchmaking, which is also important to note. The stat comparison is aiming circle spread is not that important because the guns are quite different, but as you can see, the FCM does not fall behind, and it is even probably better in these soft stats. It's probably the traverse is worse, so this stat is better. But when we come to mobility, we see the typical picture here. 80, really good power to weight, much better than on the Type, and these soft stats that you cannot see anywhere and you just buy into blind if you don't look it up, are bearing the tank a bit. It's still probably faster than the Type. Well, not probably, definitely faster than the Type, but it's just sad that these stats even exist, and they really shouldn't, or they should be disclosed before you buy your tanks. But that being said, the FCM 50T is still really mobile, and you'll see that in the game that we are about to go in, so let's go. So here we go, playing on mines as a medium tank. It's something interesting that on some maps heavy tanks spawn differently, and it's really beneficial because most of the heavy tank spawns are better than the medium tank spawns. So maps like mines, maps like Prokhorovka Encounter, you just tend to spawn in much better places, so you can afford to play like a medium tank, like I am going to do right here. Climbing hill in a heavy tank. There's not a lot of other heavy tanks that can do this. There's probably no other heavy tanks that can do this. I'm really close to being shot there. I probably should have been shot by those IS-3s, but I got lucky, so I didn't. Pretty bad driving here, but I should be able to get away. Probably T-44 is going to shoot him. There's not much I can do about it. I just need to make sure that nobody else shoots me, and I want to kind of block this T-44 here, so my team can shoot me in the ass as well, and that is exactly what happens. The IS is keen to climb up as well, and as you can see, it's working out pretty well for me. I'm going to kill the T-44 now. Now the next one is the IS, really 10 star, but that's what you get on this map. Usually you don't get to take the hill from this spawn, but since the matchmaking was so good, since I spawned in the heavy tank spawn, since I have a lot of hit points, and I'm still speedy enough to get here fast enough, it's a really good position for me to be, and there's not a lot of other tanks that can do this, and this is kind of how you have to play the FCM 50T. You get into good positions and then you just poke your enemies down, shot by shot, and hit point by hit point. So let's take a quick look into the stats of the 50T while the action has calmed down a bit. So it gets a 90mm gun. It's a decent gun, but 240 average damage per shot, 212 penetration, which might not seem like much for a heavy tank, but as is previously stated, this is not really a heavy tank. Damage per minute is one of the highest of all the premium tanks. It's definitely higher than Type 59. It's slightly lower than the IS-6. I'm pretty sure the IS-6 has the best DPM of all the Tier 8 premiums. So FCM 50T is pretty good in that regard, and it gets quite a lot of hit points, 1500 hit points for tier 8 medium. This basically is really good. But as you saw before, there's no armor, view range 400, which means that coated optics is the equipment of choice, and the other parts has to be rammer and word stabs, just to get that aiming down a bit, even though the aiming time on this gun is not really bad. 2.3 seconds, it's actually really good, and accuracy 0.36, which is also really good. That being said, back to the game. So the S3s try to overpower the hill, but that's not gonna happen. The thing to note about the 50T is that it reloads almost twice as fast as any other tier 8 heavy tank, apart from the ones that hit for 300. IS-3s are almost 2 times as slow on the reload, and the T-34 is exactly 2 times slower than the 50T on the reload. So if you have a good crew, you can always put 2 shots into your enemies. If the enemy shoots you just after you're fired, you are almost guaranteed to have the drop on him the next time. So that is really how you want to engage heavy tanks. You want to shoot them twice for every shot that they take at you, and you want... First of all, you don't really want to get shot at all. I mean, if you have the chance to support like I am doing here, that's the optimal choice on what to do. But if you don't have the choice and you have to fight heavy tanks, make sure that you shoot them twice for every shot they do to you, and you're gonna come out of the top. You just have too much hit points, and the DPM and the average damage will just eat them up before they can kill you. Another thing, this tank carries shitload of ammo, so you can load whatever you like, and I've never ran out of ammo, never been even near. I'm pretty sure this tank actually cannot fire all its rounds before the game ends, but if I'm wrong, you probably will correct me. But this game is pretty much over. It was over when the IS-3s decided that they want to climb on the hill while being completely exposed to like 4 tanks at a time. So that pretty much buried their team, and now it's just a question about cleaning up, and this is going to be the last shot I'm taking this game. So let's look at the end plates and then get into the second game. So here's the end plate, 2286 experience, ace tanker, a lot of tokens and high caliber, 4702 damage done, 409 assisted. Pretty decent game for the 50T, really good matchmaking for me as well, and as I said, the spawns can make a difference. When you spawn as a heavy tank, it's sometimes better to be a medium tank. 1524 base experience, top of the team obviously, and yeah, completely dominating the entire game just by being middle and denying the enemy team to climb the hill or do anything with that. 111k profit, which is decent enough, no premium fired, not really needed when you're the top tier. 212 pen is just enough to pen everything. So let's get into the next game. Second game is also encounter, this time Prohorovka. Pretty decent encounter for a tank with view range, and 400 meter view range plus coated optics is way more than enough for a tier 8 game to be completely dominant over anything that you can see, and as long as they don't have any sneaky TDs on the rails, I should be able to spot a lot of people without getting hit or anything like along those lines. But yeah, first play is quite obvious. You have seen me do this quite a lot in a lot of other games and a lot of other tanks, like the Batchet and any other medium tank really at tier 10. Tank really plays kind of similar to Leopard PTA, but is obviously lower tier. The view range on some maps can be really good, and you can exploit it quite a lot, especially when you play matchmaking like this. Half of the time people don't even know what view range is, so you can outplay them quite easily. Talking about outplaying things, that's how FCM really plays. To win an engagement against other tier 8s, you have to outplay them. You can't just sit there and trade. You're just not gonna be effective. I mean, you're gonna trade well even if you just sit there and trade, but most of the time if you just sit there and trade, somebody else is gonna shoot you and you're gonna die like a moron anyways. But view range makes it easy to outplay enemies on big maps. It's one of the best tools you have, so you should try to use it whenever possible. And on city maps it plays peekaboo like you saw on mines as well. There's no distance, no view range involved, but you still can peekaboo. The tank is extremely fast to accelerate, so use that to your advantage. And you can see the difference. I mean, they're just panicking now. They don't know what to do. The T-34 has like 360 meter view range. He just cannot see me. I was cautious at the start, but then I realized that he cannot spot me. Probably he spotted me at the end there, but that's probably because I pushed all the way through the bush and It would have been weird if he didn't spot me. He's dead though, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna shoot this Panzer IV as well. Panzer IV's. Now Chaffee is rushing through the middle. Had one unlucky shot on the T-34, the one that hit his gun mantle. Pretty badly aimed though, so it's my own fault, but it could have gone a bit better. That being said, Chaffee is now in the city, so I'm going to try to take off his building, but it seems that he's getting shot, so I'm not even going to bother. And I don't really want our team to cap anyway, so I don't really want to do too much, but still, shooting buildings I just cannot resist. And this Panzer IV's is going to probably die now as well. He's just going to be in the open. You cannot move that much in the cap circle and expect to live, especially when you are spotted. When it comes to gun depression, frontally it's 8 degrees, which is quite decent. It's better than all the Russians, and much better than all the French heavies at this tier. Well, at tier 8 and 9 for sure. I'm pretty sure 50B is also 8 degrees, but I might be slightly wrong there. Whatever. As you can see, the gun depression is more than enough to be able to pull off shots like this. The tank, the turret is placed on the front of the tank, which means that it's not very effective at side scraping, but hull down can work. I mean, it's not like the Tiger where your turret is located in the middle of the tank, so it's really hard to get the gun depression to count. In this tank, it's quite easy to do so. Thing to note is that gun depression to the back is pretty sure it's 0, or maybe it's -1 or 2. So when you're trying to rush somebody or being rushed, try to avoid showing your ass to anyone and trying to shoot behind your own ass. As you can see, you have a fat ass. FCM 50T has a fat ass, so you should not try to shoot over it. It's gonna be really tricky to get anything but an enemy's tank's turret, and even then the 50T is really big, so if you have no gun depression, it's most likely that you won't be able to shoot whatever is in front of you or behind you, in that matter. Really lucky shot on the IS, as you saw there. Took my chances. Since he was falling back, I had to fire there, or I won't be able to hit him at all. So I took my chances, and that's another thing you should try to do in World of Tanks whenever you can. Take your shots when you have the highest chance of hitting. If somebody is falling back, don't be afraid to shoot, especially in fast-firing guns like this one. I mean, you don't really lose anything. The ammo is not that expensive, and when you do hit, you can call yourself lucky. And half of the time you're gonna be lucky, because how accuracy works in this game is that it's much more likely to hit in the middle of your aiming circle, so it's silly not to take these chances. And this was a bit unfortunate shot that went into the upper plate of the T-28 prototype instead of the cheek of the turret. Now, there's Churchill here as well, and the thing about the FCM 50T, even tanks like a Churchill is a threat. I want to save this VK. He has played really well so far, so if he wants to use me as cover or he starts to get penned, he can easily do so because I have more than enough health to spare. But he doesn't really need my cover against the Churchill one, and he's actually going to go in for a ram. So yeah, he's played really well. He used his hit points, he used the fact that he has more armor than me, and he really speeded it. I don't think there's a word as sped. Probably not. But hey, English with Fosh, best English. Whatever. The game was speeded up by him quite a lot because he came with me and put pressure up on the enemies with me, so it was much easier for me to do what I did. Bounce off the 50 AMX M4 turret, which is quite unfortunate, but happens sometimes. Crew skill wise, it's a premium tank, obviously, so you probably won't be making a crew just for this tank. But obviously, repairs will be more useful than camo. After you could get the camo as well, but I would recommend getting the aiming stats, aiming skills as well, because most of the French heavies, especially in the higher tiers, are famous for bad aiming times and shitty accuracy on the move. So that's something you want to invest your crew in, as well as recon and situational awareness wouldn't harm them as well. The tank has a spare loader that the higher tier heavies don't have, so that is something to note. You will have a spare crew member if you will need to train that for a 50T or leave it like in an RL-44 or something like that. Or the AMX-M4 I think is the last heavy tank in the line that actually had a loader, so you might want to keep that loader from that tank to put in if you decide to buy a 50T. And buying a premium tank, it all really comes down to your preference. I mean, this is a hard premium tank to play. it's harder than most others, so I wouldn't recommend it to a new player. But if you have your grasps on the game, or you want to play, learn to play a game in a tank like this, it's probably going to be a bit harsh on you. But if you're really determined, you can do really good in this tank. And now, since we are capping, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to lose all my health, but I really don't care. I'd rather get some more damage than camp, and there we go, we win. So here's the end plate. 3,466 experience with premium count. It's with some random missions. It wasn't that much experience. High caliber, Confederate, ace tanker, team score. As you can see, 1400 base, so it was even less experience than last game. 4,568 damage done. This week I did really good as well. He was one of the reasons why I was able to do that much damage. And it's what the FCM50T does really. It's a really nice support vehicle, and you're really happy to have tanks that are willing to actually take damage for you to be able to advance in the game and do more damage and so on. As you can see in detail report, I think I made even more credits in this game than the last one. Probably comes down to the 1800 spotting damage, but since we capped and didn't kill these last 3 enemies, the experience was lower. But to sum it up, is the FCM50T worth the gold? Yeah, it is. But you have to be sure that this is the kind of tank you want to play. That you want to play a fast medium with no armor to make money. And for most people, it's gonna be like I played it as well. It was my only premium tank, and I really enjoyed it as my only premium tank. It's fun to play. There's no denying in that. And when you only have one premium tank and you really want to get a lot of tanks at tier 10, or you want to grind a lot of credits, it's actually quite important to have a tier 8 premium that's actually fun to play, and this is definitely on my book fun to play. Some people might prefer to play an IS-6 or something like that, and I can't blame them. IS-6 is way easier to play, it's way more relaxed. You can just casually drive forwards and shoot people in the face, and you'll still do really good actually, because that's how you play the IS-6. You probably would make more credits for effort like this in an IS-6, but hey, that information is not disclosed anywhere really, so I couldn't tell, but that's just how I feel. Anyways, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one. Hello, this is Foch, the Prime Minister of Romania. Today, I'm gonna tell you a story about the KV1 sport.